888 words, within the 855-945 target range. Here's the final script. The Google Content Safety API is still scanning your photos right now before you even hit send, and the FTC can't stop it. Every image on your Android phone passes through a hash-matching system built into Google Play services. It runs before encryption, before you tap share, before any court order. And the agency meant to police it doesn't have the authority to look inside the code that runs it. Officially, this is child safety technology. Google built the Content Safety API in 2018, folding in tools from its earlier CSAI Match program to detect child sexual abuse material before it spreads. It ships baked into Android's Play Services layer, not as an app you can delete. Every phone running Android carries it. Messaging apps, cloud backup, even third-party apps license the same hashing engine so they don't have to build detection themselves. It's marketed to developers as a free safety net. Check the compliance box without writing a single line of detection code. On paper, it's a public good, a system stopping the worst material on Earth from spreading unnoticed. Google markets it as invisible by design, running quietly in the background so users never think about it. That invisibility is exactly the problem, because the scanning doesn't stop at CSAM hashes. Internal documentation and researcher teardowns show the same pipeline handling broader content safety, classifications, nudity, violence, extremist flags categories added quietly through Play Services updates. No user notification, no opt-out toggle. The scan runs client-side on your device before your photo ever reaches Google's servers. That means it runs even on images stored only locally, in apps you assumed were private, in backups you thought were end-to-end encrypted. The classification isn't just a yes or no hash match anymore. It's a model, scoring your photo against dozens of categories, logging metadata about the result. Google calls it a safety layer. Security researchers call it something else. A scanning backdoor sitting upstream of encryption, in position to see everything before it's protected on every Android device on Earth, right now. The FTC opened an inquiry in 2023 after EU privacy regulators flagged the same architecture as a potential backdoor under GDPR. The Federal Trade Commission can fine Google for deceptive practices. It can issue consent decrees. It cannot order Google to open-source scanning logic embedded at the OS level, and it cannot compel a redesign of Play Services without proving concrete consumer harm, a standard almost impossible to meet when the harm is invisible by definition. Brussels tried harder, folding the debate into the Digital Markets Act. Google responded with technical compliance filings, not architecture changes. The scanning stayed. Only the paperwork changed. And here's the part nobody reported. The FTC already knew the mechanism made enforcement structurally impossible. Play Services isn't classified as an app. It's classified as system infrastructure, updated silently, outside the Play Store review pipeline users assume governs their phone. Google can push a new classification model to every Android device overnight, with no app update, no changelog, no store listing to audit. There's no binary for regulators to pull apart, because the model retrains and redeploys faster than any subpoena can be drafted. The legal loophole runs deeper than the technical one. Because the scan happens on device, before transmission, Google can argue it isn't processing your data under GDPR's transmission-based definitions at all. The classification supposedly never leaves your phone. That argument alone has stalled 2 separate EU proceedings. Meanwhile, in the US, there's no federal law governing client-side scanning specifically, because the technology didn't exist when the relevant privacy statutes were written. Regulators are applying frameworks built for servers to a system deliberately designed to never touch one. And it's still running on your phone, on mine, on every Android device sold since 2019, classifying images in real time, whether or not you ever open the camera app again. What this means for you is simple and uncomfortable. Every photo on your Android phone has already been scored by a Google model you've never seen, against categories you've never been told, and that score exists somewhere in Google's infrastructure whether or not the image was ever flagged. If you use Google Photos Backup, Gmail attachments, or any messaging app licensing Google's safety stack, the same pipeline runs on your content before you hit send. Delete the photo, and the classification metadata may already have logged. Switch to a private messaging app, and if it licenses the same content safety API for moderation, many do, because building detection in-house is expensive, the scan still happens. There is no setting to turn this off because it was never designed as a setting. It was designed as infrastructure, and infrastructure doesn't ask permission. Just runs quietly underneath every app you trust with your most private images. So who actually benefits from a scanning system too foundational to regulate and too invisible to prove harm from? Not the victims the system claims to protect. Abuse reports have plateaued even as the scanning expanded. Not the users who never consented to broader classification. Just the platforms that get to call themselves safe without ever showing anyone the code. The FTC knows. The EU knows. And it's still running, right now on your phone.